Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick, and how is everyone going? We have a new X-Wing product coming out soon, and this is very different. Usually we talk about like new ships and expansions and stuff. I don't tend to talk about these things on the channel. This is just an expansion for what is essentially a cosmetic item. It just adds a bit of flair to your list. It doesn't actually add any new in-game elements that change strategy or anything like that. However, what this is going to offer us is a new way of entering into the game. This is going to lower the barrier of entry for new players, and that is something I'm very interested in talking about on this channel. So, what we're talking about is these new damage decks. We have one of these themed damage decks for each of the 7 factions, with art depicting one of those faction ships on the front of the cards. For the Rebellion, we have Y-Wings. For the Empire, we have TIE Interceptors. For Scum, we have Fang Fighters. Resistance T-70s, TIE SFs for the First Order, Jedi Starfighters for the Republic, and Vulture Droids for the Separatists. And all of these decks also have their own unique back. Now, unfortunately, that means you can't mix and match these. I'm not sure why you'd want to, but you can't, because you need to make sure all the cards have the same back to draw from a random deck. I'm sure even if they were sleeved, that wouldn't be tournament legal, so don't try and do that. Also, these are being printed on full-size cards. So the same card sizing that we have for pilots and upgrades and all of FFGs like LCGs and that kind of stuff. So you can go get like your cheap Ultra Pro sleeves and sleeve these up, no problem. Now there actually is absolutely no need to use those mini sleeves, which is a great thing. But more to the point, we now have all of the elements that you could previously only get in the core set available as separate items, which means new players don't necessarily have to buy core sets. And I do stress that necessarily because I don't think that the core set is actually a bad deal. In fact, I think in general the core set is a fantastic deal for what you get. But before this, we only had the option of getting that, which meant you get ships for the Rebellion and Empire, and you might not want to play Rebellion and Empire. Say you want to start out in, like, the Resistance or the Scum faction. When these new decks release, you are able to now just buy ships within the faction you want to play. Say you haven't played the game before, but you are absolutely sure that you are going to play Resistance. You don't have to buy the X-Wing for the Rebellion and the TIE Fighters for the Empire anymore. Now, I will point out, if we add up the cost of, say, one of these new decks, a pack of damage dice, and the range rulers and movement templates, which is the essential items you get from the core set, we're in the low 30s in terms of US dollars, and the core set itself only cost $40. So at the end of the day, I do stress the point that the core set is still a fantastic deal. If you have any inclination to play Rebellion or Empire, not only are you getting ships for those factions, but you're actually getting good options from those. For example, you're getting Luke Skywalker on the T-65 X-Wing, the TIE Fighters. You're just getting bulk TIE Fighters, and you kind of need bulk TIE Fighters. If you want to experiment with Empire lists, that's just kind of a thing you have to do. So from that point of view, I feel like even if you just wanted one of those ships, that's a really good option. But it should be pointed out, if you go the other route and get it all separate, as in the deck, templates, and dice, you do get a nicer looking damage deck, and you do get what is arguably better quality templates. Now, not everyone loves these because they are quite chunky. It's a bit difficult to sort of layer ships on top of them when you try to move through other things. Oftentimes in tournaments, for example, you want to place a template down and place your opponent's ship over the template so you can measure where a bump is. And this is arguably a bit more difficult with these new aftermarket templates. I understand that. However, they're more hardy wearing. You're not going to break these in a screaming hurry. I mean, I guess we don't really break the cardboard ones per se. But they're a nice option. And look, honestly, as someone who owns the core set, I'm going to be getting these regardless. I'm going to get the damage decks regardless because they just look so cool. But with that option, yes, ultimately you are paying less to enter into the game. You just don't have any kind of leg up when it comes to getting into these ships. There's no like super budget option to getting a bulk load of ships, except with these squadron packs that came out for the 2 new factions. And I've spoken about this before. When these were first revealed, I really like this business model because it's essentially the price of 3 ships for 2. It gets a real foothold in a faction, especially the new factions that don't have any way of doing that. There's no conversion kits. These ships don't come in any core set, so that was necessary. And I feel like more than ever, now we're moving towards a stage where a squad pack on every single faction, and I am including Rebel and Empire in that conversation, would be a fantastic thing, because this is a way we can sort of, for well under $100, you can get a good foothold into a faction. For example, if you were looking at flying a Republic list, buying the squad pack for the Republic, plus one other Jedi Starfighter, is not only a viable list, it's actually top tier. Like Obi-Wan, Anakin, and 2 Torrents is a real thing. And this is something that I think FFG should continue to move towards. And I think the fact that we have these damage decks now are a fantastic thing. So if you are a new player looking at getting into the game, this is a fantastic sign. If you're just adamant that you don't want to play Rebel or Empire, I would seriously look at this trend that's going on right now and be very happy. If we get any inclination of squad packs on the other 5 factions, I will be all over that. I'm a huge proponent of those packs. I think it's one of the better products that FFG have made for X-Wing in the past few months. And yeah, look, I just want to point out the significance of this product. It is cool, but what it means in terms of the business model for X-Wing overall is fantastic, and I think it does help to significantly lower the barrier of entry. So, yep, that's it. Not much to talk about. There's no new game strategies in this video. This is more a discussion on what it means for newer players, and I think that's very important. In the meantime, do not forget to like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Reddit, and please consider supporting my Patreon as well. Really the best way to support this channel monetarily at this point in time. Thank you so much to all of my existing patrons, and I'll catch you all in the next video.